Hello, everyone. This is Robert Landau, Live Life Well TV host, with another episode of Meet Your RCM Executive Staff. And it don't get better than this today, folks. Why? Because we have Mr. Jim Gray, who is the owner and CEO of Retirement Center Management. Jim, thank you so much for joining us, and it is a pleasure to have you here today.
Well, likewise. Thank you, Robert, very much.
You're very, very welcome. So I've got a lot of questions I wanted to ask you. I know that unlike many others in your position with other companies, you from time to time are a very visible entity at a lot of RCM communities. But even the residents and staff that know you might be interested in our journey today. So with that in mind, where are you from?
I grew up in Dallas, Texas.
Neat. Brothers, sisters?
I do. I have a brother, a little bit older, who lives in Austin. And we were raised in Dallas. And then after Dallas, we ended up going to different states for school. But both came back to Texas.
Wonderful. In your childhood years, were there things that your parents instilled in you that may be pillars of thought and encouragement that you fall back on even to this day?
I do. The love of family. And we were always together. And my mom particularly made sure every holiday was centered around the family. And that we continue that tradition in our own families right now. But family is very important to us.
I love that. And if I may, I would relate that to what RCM is today, because it has sort of a family feel to it, but we'll get into that more just a little later.
Right.
So what was your very first job, the very first job you ever had?
The very first job I ever had was throwing the afternoon newspaper called the Dallas Times-Herald. And I would get out of school, and it was a very coveted job to have. My brothers had it and passed it down to me. And fold the papers at 4 o'clock and do the neighborhood delivery and be home by 5:30. And it was great. I paid for my spending money.
There you go. How long did you do that?
About 3 years.
3 years.
And then started when I was in 7th grade. And then by the time I got into high school, I got very involved. I finally had to move on.
And throughout the high school years, what were your major interests? Were there areas of study that you were attracted to?
Actually, I was the editor of our high school newspaper called The Bagpipe, and it took a lot of time. So we wrote articles and laid out the newspaper and published it once a week. It was a full-time job in addition to school, and it was a great job. I loved it.
I love it. I think your journey, of which I know nothing about, fascinates me. Because sitting where you're sitting today, I think that's a story that needs to be shared. So wherever you want to go with this, let's start out with this. How did you get to where you're sitting today? What propelled you to take on the challenge that you dress up and suit up and meet every day? Did it come through various career progressions?
It did. I watched my dad, who was a very hard worker, and he was an attorney, a trial lawyer. He worked every day and took weekends off, but I saw his work ethic, and I always wanted to emulate it. And he was he grew up with nothing. As a matter of fact, he was a self-made man. His mother worked in order to send him to college, and then he offered that he would send us as much education as he wanted. Then after education was through, they were on our own. So I went to undergraduate school in Virginia, had a great opportunity there, and came back to Dallas and started working in the banking industry, and realized that I wanted to be in real estate, but I needed to get some more skills. So I went to the University of Texas to receive an MBA. And after I was graduating, I was very, very fortunate to get a job with Trammell Crow Company, which was at the time the largest real estate company, I think nationwide. And they moved to Houston, and I was running the industrial warehousing side for many, many years. Loved the company. It was a fabulous place to work. But then in the 90s, things got a little tough in real estate, and another gentleman and I decided that we were going to leave Trammell Crow and start our own company. And we started a small little investment fund shop, and it was called Cypress. And through that enterprise, we talked to our investors, and they asked us to explore new ventures, new real estate opportunities. And we ended up studying the market for a year and found that senior living was a potential underserved market we wanted to explore. And so we dove in straight head first and started developing properties back in 1997, a little bit ahead of our time. We developed a portfolio of properties in the Southeast and the Midwest, and that was our start into the senior living business. And we ended up actually, for a lot of different reasons, that property, we sold those buildings back in 2000, and ever since then I've been continuing on with Retirement Center Management and Bridgewood Property Company, my development company.
So how was RCM and Bridgewood created? When and what were your sort of credos, your mottos,
right,
that were the foundation of this incredible business that you've created?
We create Bridgewood in order to be able to develop and acquire properties, but we have there are a lot of great management firms to choose and to use. We use several, but I always want to do it my way. I wanted to be more responsive. I wanted to create a family that we're serving families. Basically, our residents are all family, and our employees are all family. And so it made much more sense to have my own management company in order to service our residents the way that I feel like they need to be served. And so through the years, we ended up hiring the absolute right people. It's not me. We just have a great team, and it's our staff that does the performance, and I'm so proud of each and every one of them. So.
Tell us how the very first RCM community was created, because you may not want to get into the specifics of it, but my goodness, behind the scenes, there's a lot that goes on to be able to build something or acquire something and open its doors so people can live there.
Right. You know, it's a long process. The first RCM building in Houston was the Village of Tanglewood that we acquired the land site in 2005, and then did our design work, started construction, and were able to open up in late 2007. So it's been open for 13 years now. And it's a fabulous, still is a fabulous, beautiful building. And so we have just a great resident base there. Many of them have been with us for 10 plus years. And hope they'll be with us for another 10 plus years. So, but that was the very first big building under the RCM brand.
Were there some hurdles, without being specific, along the way to making that community a reality for RCM? I just cannot imagine what one goes through acquiring a beautiful community like that, and then really figuring it out, how to make it your own, how to make it a brand.
Right. Yeah, it took us about a year to design the building. And you want to make sure you had the right amenity spaces, and you want to make sure that the walk distances were correct, and that the flow was correct. And you also had units have nice views, and also that you could have every program you wanted to have in the building with a limited amount of space, and also accommodate the parking. And but it's a puzzle. It's a jigsaw puzzle, and pieces don't always fit together initially, and it takes you a lot of different tries and attempts and redrawings, and then it's right. And once it's right, we will hire a general contractor, and then we go start the construction process. But You have to arrange the financing, you have to arrange the equity partner, you have to get the permitting done, and then so we're probably 2+ years involved before you start moving the first first dirt. So and then 2 years to construct. So by the time you find a piece of property until you actually open up, it could be 4 or 5 years.
My goodness, my goodness. So the village of Tanglewood was built by RCM.
By Ridgewood Property Company, and RCM has been the managing it for the last several years. Correct.
Interesting, interesting. And so once that was up and running, from your standpoint, do you set a blueprint as to where you want to go with things? In other words, did you have a plan that you launched based on the success of the village of Tanglewood as to how many communities you wanted to acquire or build from scratch from there? How does that work? How do you plan for the future?
Yeah, we're a little different, Robert. We want to be the best, but not the biggest. Being the size is not important to us, but we want to make sure every property we own or build or manage, we do is the best in this market. So we're very, very cautious on where we build or acquire properties. We try to buy, attain, and manage a building that's in the neighborhood where the resident has been living for 30, 40+ years. It's not a new neighborhood for them. They're very familiar with the neighborhood, but they want to change their lifestyle to some extent, and we want to make it easier for them. So we build in the neighborhood where the resident and or their adult children have been living for many, many years. And we take a long time to find the right site. We're not trying to build in every corner. We're trying to build in the absolute best location for the resident base. That's why we strategically locate our buildings nestled and kind of close to senior residences already, where they've been living in single-family homes for a long time, and they can still go to the same church or synagogue or go to the same shopping patterns and neighborhood patterns that they've been used to. Their family and friends are still close by, but we take care of all the headaches of own home and running the home yourself. We want to do it for them now.
That's incredible, and it's really a very good strategy. So when I was interviewing Lynn Wallace not too long ago in this series, she told me that when she started with RCM, basically there were a few communities, and just in 10 years, now there are, and correct me if I'm wrong, there are 34, soon to be 35, yes?
That's correct.
I mean, given the strategy that you just shared in terms of where you have an RCM community and why, and what feeds into it, 10 years from just a few to basically 35 is incredible. And that's attributable to you and your incredible executive staff, because it seems to me that this growth is not blind or willy-nilly. There's a reason for every building that joins the portfolio. But how do you attribute such incredible growth within the span of 10 years or maybe a little more?
I would give our staff and my team all the credit. Just great people we work with. And so they do such a good job. They can free me up to go out and look for new opportunities. And so I'm so grateful to all of them. And our COO, Dave Keaton, who you've met, and Lynn Wallace. Our executive team is so strong and so fabulous that they make my job easy. So I can spend my time looking for new opportunities, and which we're doing. We're looking to still expand the business. We are looking in markets we've been before in the Southeast primarily, but we're only going to do one at a time. So you'll see us. We've got a property that near Rice Village we're opening up this year, and then we'll be starting a new project hopefully in the Southeast sometime this year.
You mentioned the executive staff and how really it is a family energy that unites them and that empowers them to move forward. Right. And I want to give you a little compliment, but I don't want you to blush.
Okay.
I have been in the senior retirement community industry for over 15 years. I've met and have known a lot of people in your position sitting where you are sitting now. However, there's a difference because the person that we're seeing sitting in that chair now is open, has a great sense of humor, is kind, is caring, kind of lives from here as opposed to always from here. And given that you are known in so many RCM communities, you're out there. So yes, you are free to do what you need to do to keep this company moving forward, but you have assembled some of the coolest executive team that I have seen in this industry. Why? Because they kind of mirror you in that they are open, friendly, kind, loving. There is not a corporate energy about any of you. And you know what? That starts at the top. So congratulations and thank you, because that makes a huge difference. Even the steps that you and I took to set up this interview. You were responsive, you answered emails, there was not, I didn't have to go through 16 people to get to you. I mean, that's really something, Jim, when a retirement community company has 35 communities to still be approachable, kind, friendly, caring. That is incredible. So thank you.
Well, I'm going to blush. Thank you. That's very nice compliment. I'm embarrassed. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. So, but it is back to the team because I mean, for one example, we have the best CFO you could ever have, and David Clement, and David knows the industry better than I do. And as a matter of fact, it's so nice to have someone on your executive team, everyone, but David, for instance, who's handles all the financing for us and accounting work, but also understands the residents, understands the programming, and so therefore we, as a team, we all can share experiences and knowledge, and it's been great. So we all work together. So as opposed to someone not having really knowledge of the industry, they may have knowledge of accounting and numbers, but not the industry. That doesn't work. We need to have someone who knows the industry, and David sure does. So that's been great.
That is huge. And I'll tell you a little something. Many of our listeners know that I was a cruise director for close to 10 years, right? And one of the lines that I helped launch, I was their first cruise director, and maybe some of our listeners remember Renaissance Cruise Line.
Sure.
And Renaissance had a wonderful strategy. They built smaller, all-suite ships, but charge the same price of a cruise that you would for a good cabin on a large ship. So it was a very great strategy. And for many years, Renaissance was flourishing with about, 5 to 7 ships of that size, maybe no more than 140, just under 200 passengers, no bingo, no casino, but the emphasis was on the destination. However, the CEO of that company left. I think he went to Cunard, if I'm not mistaken. And the CEO of a major rental car company took over. So he had no cruise line experience. And unfortunately, Renaissance does not exist today. So your strategy, which is very simple, but is not always followed, is gold. You get people to serve on your team, your family, who are passionate and know about what they're doing. Because then you can do what you do best because you don't have to worry about them.
Right. You're right. And I know there are things that I can't do, and I got a great staff that can do them and do them better than I could possibly do. And we want to make sure everybody in our staff, if they needed to go into a building and perform a job, they know it, they can do it. So, but it's so important to know the residents because they're our family, and I want them to know us. And so our goal is to always be in the community. Somebody, if not daily, weekly, so that the community and the residents see our presence and we're there because we're all one big family.
It's really true, and I'm not being paid to say this, but there really is a family atmosphere from the executive team all the way down to a server in a dining room in one of
Right.
the RCM communities. It's
Right.
very unusual, very unusual. How is RCM different than other senior retirement community companies? You mentioned family, and that's huge. What else makes this company unique?
You know, we hire people that either have experience in the industry or have compassion of the heart, because it's a heart-run business. So if our staff and caregiving group and a lot of our employees could do other things and maybe even make more money, I don't know, but that they're with us because they love this industry, they love the people, and with that compassion and that heart they have into the business, they stay and thrive. And the funny one point I always like to make is that our residents actually have the strongest relationship oftentimes with the dining staff and the housekeeping staff, because they see them every day and they interact, and they're, you know, hopefully on a good name basis. And so those are the people that touch points we have more than even the corporate office. So it's so important to make sure that that group who work for us really have the compassion and heart to be in the business. And I think we hire right. It's a magic. We seem to know through the interviewing process if somebody really wants to be in our industry or not, and that's what we look for.
I got to tell you, I don't know if you remember the very first time you and I met, but it was many, many, many years ago when RCM was getting ready to open the Village of the Woodlands Waterway.
Oh, I remember, yes.
And I don't know if you remember exactly, so I'll very quickly just share it with you because I think it's a kind of a funny story. So Lynn Wallace, before the building had officially opened, would do, as she still does with her team, these events at outside venues,
Yes.
to keep depositors interested and to interest others in living in a community. So she had booked this incredible soiree at the Woodlands Convention Center, which really isn't too far from where the community is. And so I've known Lynn for many years. We worked together in the senior retirement community industry in Denver. So she calls me one day and she goes, "Robert, how would you like to be the featured speaker at this event we're doing for deposit holders for the Village of the Woodlands Waterway at the convention center? Just do a presentation you think they'd enjoy." So I said, "Sure, my God, I'd love to." And she said, "By the way, I'm pretty sure that Jim Gray will be in attendance." And I thought, "Oh, this is cool. I get to meet Jim Gray. Wonderful." So fast forward to the event. It was in this, I don't know if you remember, it was in this incredible ballroom.
Yes.
That was like a greenhouse because it had,
I do.
Yeah, it had like a glass ceiling to it. And it was a beautiful, I think, summer day that day. So you were really in touch with nature when you sat there. So a sumptuous buffet was planned, and some of the really most prominent residents of the Woodlands attended. So they were either deposit holders or they were thinking about moving in. And I did a presentation called "That's My Story and I'm Sticking to It." And it's just fun trivia, and it is one that I had done for many years. So the lunch finishes, you take your seat. I still remember where you were sitting because I had my eye on you, you know. And so I was introduced and I started, and all of a sudden the sun comes out, right? And it comes through these windows, and at least from where I was standing, starts to heat the room up.
Oh, no.
This was such an important occasion for me that I had a videographer there filming me. So I was mic'd, and I made the stupid decision to wear, as speakers often do, some foundation makeup.
Oh, no.
And so the presentation starts, and it's really funny. I've done it for years. But for some reason, I don't know if it was because the room really started to heat up, nobody was laughing.
Oh, no, I don't remember that.
Thank God you don't remember that. So I'm going through and I'm thinking, oh my God, I have never bombed in the years that I've been a motivational speaker, and actually, thank God, haven't since. But boy, I was swimming in those waters because I kept doing these facts. And usually, when people would really laugh, there was this deathly silence, and I started to sweat. And I
Oh, no.
started to sweat more until by the end of the presentation, and actually I was so glad it was over. I think many in the audience were too, for not the greatest reasons. And people actually, some of them did come up to congratulate me, and I was just soaked. And you came up, and as people can see, you're this incredibly positive, jovial, energetic entity, human being. But you came up to me and you looked at me, and this is how you addressed me. You said, "Robert, it's really good to meet you, and you did a great job." And then I said, "Thank you, Jim. I appreciate that." And he goes, "Take care, and I'm sure I'll see you again." And I thought, huh, I wonder why he was looking at me that way. Was I that bad? So I went to the restroom. And when I was washing my hands, I looked in the mirror. Because I was sweating so much, that makeup had cratered on my face.
Oh,
Where I
no.
had like 18 little volcanoes that they looked like anthills that had built up on my face. And that's why you were looking at me that way, because I mean, it was
I
really,
remember, I
do you
remember the
remember that?
event. I remember the event. I remember where we were. I know the room. I don't remember the makeup issue. So you're safe with me.
Oh
Just
my God. Maybe
don't,
because you don't remember much about that day, you agreed to do this interview with me. So,
great.
but that was the first time we met. We've seen each other a couple of times. So thank you for not casting me aside because of my performance that day. And thank God I haven't had an event like that since. So, and
You're
people
fine.
still moved in. So hey, it couldn't have
They
been that
did.
bad, craters and all.
I think you
But
were
let me
better than
ask
you
you
were.
this, Jim. Where do you see RCM going? What's the strategy for the future? Because really, it has been an incredible growth so far. Where do you see things going?
We want to continue growing, and as I earlier mentioned, we're looking in markets in the Southeast, but we continue every time we build a building. It's custom. We don't cookie cutter our properties, so we'll find out in the market what's needed, what size of units are needed, what the amenity packages we want to be offering, and so it takes us a while to internally create the program. And but we'll be looking in some major markets in the Southeast. We're not going to go too far from our home base. We're going to take the same program, the same culture we have here into our other new buildings. So, but growing one a year is a good pace for us. And you can go out and acquire a whole bunch of properties and not be able to integrate them and absorb them correctly. And we want to make sure that the same focus and culture and programming is carried through every one of our buildings, and that takes a controlled, disciplined approach to growth.
I love that. So you shared with us that really from the get-go in your career, you understood what it was to be and is to be in real estate. You understand numbers, two very important components that I think contribute to the success of RCM. But let me ask you this. I don't think anybody can imagine what it would be like in terms of the responsibility and the weight that you place on your shoulders to keep this company running in the successful way that it is, to acquire new communities. I'm sure there are many ups and downs with this type of thing. How do you not take all of this to bed with you at night?
Oh, I do. So I'm concerned about making sure we're delivering the right program and right service in this period of time we're going through right now with the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm very grateful for our staff. I have never seen them step up as greatly as they did. We were early on to making sure we limited visitations and stopped move-ins. And I could not be more proud of our group. We've had very, very few instances of residents being infected, one or two, and same with staff. And I think it's because of our staff. We have a fabulous nursing group that set in place protocols to make sure that our first and foremost mission is to take care of the safety and health of our residents, and everything else falls into place. So we've had to increase some staffing in some cases to make sure we were doing the right programming, to hire the right equipment we needed to for protection for us and the residents. And it's just been a dedication of the whole team. And our COO, Dave Keaton, has been overseeing the program. He has, if not daily, 2 times a day calls with the staff to make sure that everything they need to provide the service and care we need for residents is being done. So it has proven to me that we have the right people doing the right things. I'm so grateful for that team. It's not me. It's all what they're doing. And I've been down to the office every day because we're an essential business, and it's kind of ground centrals our office. And I get reports throughout the day of what's going on. And I'm just so grateful for the team. They seem to have it under control. And it's a good feeling that makes you sleep better at night.
Yes, exactly. Well, in wrapping up, I would like to pay you a compliment, because you just said, well, it's not me, as to why things are as tight and successful as they are. But I would say this: I think it is you, because so many of the values that you've shared with us during this interview, family, right, and really leading from the heart and not necessarily solely with the mind. I think from what I can see, because I deal with the corporate executives a bit, and I'm certainly very aware of what goes on at RCM communities because I have the incredible gift of speaking at them a lot. RCM is something very special. RCM is something very unique. You don't find that a lot in this industry. How and why is that? Jim, it's a large part because of you. You can only create something that comes from within, right? And you've kept your morals, your standards, the family energy alive in the corporate process. Dave Keaton, Lynn Wallace, I mean, I could give a long list of names. They kind of all personify and model that family model. And when you approach business, I mean, business and family don't always mix. It can often be oil and water.
Right.
But you have found a way, with the incredible people that you have chosen to include in your team, to blend water and oil into a pretty cool mix. So I guess I should call on makeup to cover your blushing.
I am.
Maybe you don't hear this that often, so I would like to, and I'm sure I'm not alone, congratulate you and your team for the incredible success of RCM, for its wisely planned future growth, and as you alluded to, for the incredible steps that have been taken to deal with the COVID crisis. It's almost like we're living in an alternate reality.
Right.
But the approach from RCM has been, let's hit the ground running in a very planned and organized way, putting our residents and staff first. So thank you, Jim Gray, because you need to take ownership of that, because stuff starts from the top. And it is because of you and everybody sort of under you that the company is what it is today.
Well, thank you.
How about that?
I'm humbled, and thank you so much. And I just wanted to add at closing as well that I've been, this experience the last 3 weeks, actually 2 months almost, has taught me and it reemphasized to me how valuable and how wonderful it is to be in senior living, because residents don't need to be worried about their meals, preparation, going shopping for groceries, and driving to the doctor's appointment. take care of it for them, and therefore their risk of infection is minimized by being in a building that's secured, and we're preventing the outside visitors from coming in and therefore infecting our resident base. So it's made me realize that, gosh, in the next 10 years, you want to do even a better program and a better approach to protecting and creating safety for residents and creating a great lifestyle for them, and where they can leave all the worry and headache to us and just enjoy the many, many years they have to live with us.
Very well said. And with strategies like that, I can well understand why RCM will continue to thrive. So Jim Gray, thank you so much for sharing your time, your heart with us. It is most appreciated. And thank you for letting us in to your world and letting us know what makes you and RCM tick. So thank you.
Thank you, Robert, very much. It's great visiting with you. I appreciate it.